in long-term recovery and is passionate about helping people who are affected by substance use. She grew up and still resides on the Seacoast. Jessie has a BS in Business Management from UNH and has just began the MSW program at UNH in Manchester. She is the Recovery Friendly Workplace Coordinator at SOS in Hampton, and Jessie has had her own battle with substance use disorder and knows how difficult it can be to find and sustain recovery. She is very excited to share her experience, strength, and hope with everyone tonight. Let's give her a round of applause.
Woo!
My name's Jessie. I am from the New Hampshire Seacoast, and I have been blessed with a lot of things in my life. I grew up in a small town in a big house. I'm a middle child and my parents are still married. I have a degree from UNH, I studied abroad in Australia, and my parents paid for my education. I had a lot going for me. I was never cold or hungry or unsafe. I had a car, nice clothes, and we went on vacations. I was the girl next door. I'm also a recovering heroin addict. Even though I had plenty of things on the outside, I never had enough of what mattered on the inside. I always felt like a fraud, like I was hiding behind a mask. Because deep down I thought I was a bad, unlovable person that no one was going to like. As an attempt to fit in and cope with the feelings of inadequacy, I started smoking pot on a regular basis when I was 16. By regular, I mean daily. I partied and got drunk every weekend. That is what we did in high school. In college, I started severely abusing Adderall and cocaine. After I somehow got my degree and started working for my family's business, I met my child's father the summer of 2006. Within a few years, I was pregnant with my son. I was able to stop using during the pregnancy. Although shortly after my son was born, prescription painkillers came into my life, and it wasn't very long until I was hooked. I was making good money as a manager at my family's business, but my habit became completely unmanageable. I would cry in the shower every morning and promise myself I wasn't going to use that day. And by lunchtime, I would be making up an excuse to leave work and speed up to Manchester to get what I needed. At this point, I didn't even realize I was addicted to pills. I know it sounds crazy, but I just thought I was mentally weak. I had never experienced withdrawal. All I knew was I was compelled to get more, and I was being completely reckless. Eventually, I went through a painful breakup with my son's father, and that's where I really lost myself. It has taken me 6 more years and caused me a lot of heartache to find that girl again. In 2013, I met and fell in love with a man who I would soon find out was struggling with a heroin addiction. We instantly had an intense connection, and I thought we would be together forever. I believed I would be able to help him get sober, but that's not what happened. It wasn't very long before I was injecting heroin with him. Suddenly I was living a life I wasn't prepared for and no longer recognized myself. I was forced to find ways to afford my habit involving lots of high-risk choices and behaviors. I got arrested at gunpoint in Lawrence, and within 4 months of picking up heroin, I lost everything in this order. My steady job as a manager at my father's business, the home I owned and put my blood, sweat, and tears into, my license and new car, and eventually custody of my son. My pride and self-respect went too. In the years to follow, I would also pay with my freedom many times as well. I was a slave to my addiction and completely blind to the power it had over me. I was literally living my life just waiting for the next high. I was always looking to the next and never realized what I was missing in the now. I thought I wanted to get better, but the truth is, unfortunately, I was going to have to experience a lot more pain before that would happen. The crazy things we did became normal to us. We were always thinking that it's going to be different this time, but sadly it never was. It was the true definition of insanity, trying the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Numbing my pain away was the only escape I knew possible. Obviously, every time I used, the price got higher and higher. It cost me my self-respect, and my values and standards dropped a little more each time. It's like being in a body that wants to live and having a mind that is trying to die. I am a prime example of how truly cunning, baffling, and powerful this disease is. Left untreated, it is almost guaranteed that addiction will lead us to jails, institutions, or death. These three devastating outcomes define my experience at the end of my drug use. My life was changed forever almost 3 years ago on my birthday when I found my boyfriend dead of a drug overdose in his bedroom. I was watching my worst nightmare play out in slow motion. It didn't feel real. It was like watching some sick scene from a horror movie. As everything crashed down on top of me, there was no escaping it. And as reality closed in, I shattered under the magnitude of it all. The next day I got arrested and ended up in Valley Street Jail under a no bail hold due to violating probation. This is where I would remain, being unable to attend his services, never able to say goodbye to the man I thought would be my forever. I was left completely alone with my grief, simply deserted on the cold jail cell floor to detox from my drugs, from my love, and from the only life I knew. No one to call, nothing to soften the blow. I once heard that rock bottom is when you hit the floor quicker than you can lower your standards. You would think this would have been rock bottom. And it definitely had the most jagged rocks, but it wouldn't stop the insanity of my disease. It only gave my addiction permission to keep me locked in its prison. The worst kind of prison is the one you build yourself. After being released from jail, I got kicked out of rehab. I was defeated and felt completely hopeless. I took a massive dose of pills that should have killed me. I wasn't actively trying to kill myself, but I was being completely reckless and didn't care if I woke up. I had a seizure and came to in the hospital with no memory of what had happened. I then bounced in and out of psych wards, rehabs, sober livings, drug court, and jails. During a period of abstinence, I was terminated from drug court and found myself incarcerated again. That's when I knew the gig was really up. I realized that I had absolutely no idea how to live my life without ending up in jail. My thinking was going to kill me. Even without the drugs, my behaviors and choices landed me back behind bars. I knew that if I didn't change, one of two things would happen. I would end up back in jail, or I was going to die. Then and only then did I become willing to really try to work a program of recovery, which for me involved the 12 steps. I was out of options. I had no choice but to surrender. I took suggestions, I got a sponsor, and actually called her. I stopped seeking validation from men. I started going to meetings and actually listening. I did lots of hot yoga. I made real connections with other women, and most importantly, I prayed. I asked for willingness and strength to do whatever necessary to change my life. It's not all butterflies and rainbows. It's hard work, but it's not nearly as hard as living in active addiction. Slowly it got easier, I got happier, and things started to shift. Some days sobriety sucks, but I wouldn't trade the worst day in recovery for my best day using. I am blessed to have an amazing mother that refused to stop loving me, no matter how sick I was. I wouldn't give up until I learned how to love myself. It's been 1.5 years, and I have grown and changed in ways I didn't even know I wanted to. I'm still writing my 4th step. I'm definitely dragging my feet. I am not a model student. I am a work in progress. And sometimes I feel disconnected from my higher power. I don't always listen and take the suggestions, but I keep trying. I keep showing up, and I remain honest. And above all, I don't use drugs. Before I became a believer, I saw the power of the fellowship, of connection, and I used that. I realized then that I could take what I needed from the program and leave the rest. That's what I did in the beginning, and I hung around long enough to hear the message, and I knew that they had what I was looking for. I didn't know what it was, but I knew they had it and I needed it. I'm still seeking the solution, but at least now I know that inside the halls is where the answer lies. Today I work at a recovery center and I help people that are struggling. And sometimes I struggle and they help me. I just started grad school at UNH to get my master's in social work, and I am petrified that I don't have what it takes to graduate the program. But I am walking through that fear because recovery has taught me that I fail 100% of the times I don't try. Today, my parents are proud of me. I have custody of my son, and he loves me more than I could have imagined possible. Levels of love I couldn't have comprehended. And by the grace of God, all of that is possible because I am sober. When I started to think of what I wanted to say tonight, the first thing that came to my mind was that this was a tough topic with a lot of hard truths and not a lot of easy answers. I wanted to find the perfect advice to share with you all to help anyone who is struggling, but unfortunately, I don't have the perfect advice. I do know one thing though. People don't have a responsibility to fix us, but love us even when we are broken. So love someone when they are broken. That might be the very thing they need to put themselves back together. Thank you.